Hello and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Seams. Oh, actually, it's Cosmic Star Signals now. Anyways, today's channel message, we're talking about Russian T-dolls. Boop. So, today's kind of a channel message. Sometimes I get inspired ideas, like today, the Russian T-dolls. It literally started like that. They just popped in my head and go, yeah, okay. So what about them? And it's like, well, it's a metaphor for peeling away layers. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we'll do a message. So sometimes I actually jot down like structured lessons. Sometimes it's just kind of go with the flow. Today is apparently go with the flow. But I did draw images as my new structure, my guide system. So the first one, Russian T-dolls. My creepy ass, disturbing peanut. It's a peanut. I can draw. I just chose not to. Although now I'm starting to even question it myself now. So the reason this popped up in my head is something that's actually something I've been doing these past couple of months specifically. Stripping away layers. So these Russian teacup dolls is literally nothing but a hollowed out, typically a piece of wood or ceramic, normally wood. It's a hollowed out piece of wood, and then inside there is another doll. A doll within a doll within a doll. So they're, for those who don't know what it is. So I'm sure you've seen them. You open up the doll, there's another doll inside, open it up, so on and so forth. Well, nowadays, it's a trend. There's all these different styles and fashions and stuff, but the one I played with when I was a kid was probably from like the 60s or 70s or something. It was like my grandma's. And this one specifically was solid, one color. So like, it was a red dress with a person's face. Then you open it up and they're in a red dress, is my point. Because other versions now have made it pop culture to where it's like every doll is different. So now it's cool, it's trendy, whatever. But like I said, the original one that I saw was they were all the same. So it was red doll, open it up, red doll, open it up, red doll, open it up, red doll. But then when you finally got to the nugget, the core center, it was a yellow doll. The itty bitty one by itself was yellow. So it's like every single one of them was the same, except that middle one, the yolk, the nugget, the U. Really, bro? Alright, whatever. So, it's basically what I've been doing. We talk about spiritual evolution, or raising your frequency, ascending, whatever the hell you want to call it. And in order to do that, and I always feel, ooh, that's what it is. It's imposter syndrome, because I'm repeating stuff that I learned, but I'm putting a different spin on it. Almost feels like imposter syndrome. So, sorry, my self-analyzing interrupted my message. Where was I? Get back on track. Peeling away layers. Spiritual ascension. Yes. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of going off what mindset I had. Growing up, I was raised to put on the armor of God. You know, and I do this little head bobbing kind of mockingly. You're supposed to put on, you know, armor, like basically a full suit of armor. What? I really hope it's still recording. It looks like it is. The timer's still going. There was a phone call and it gave me some weird notification. Anyways. Damn, keep fucking interrupting. It's Monday. I didn't want to come out. But I did anyways. It's just the chaos of Monday, so. I'm back on track here. ADHD brain's firing like crazy. Ground. Okay. So instead of putting on this armor of God, though, what you're typically supposed to do is strip away. So the best analogy I can really think of was me as a kid. I was born in Minnesota. For those who don't know, it's cold. I mean, it's literally touching Canada. It's fucking cold. And especially me as a child, I used to have immune issues to the point where I didn't go to public school until like 6th grade. So imagine young me gonna go play out in the snow. My mom would bundle me up so effing much that I would literally look like a marshmallow. The original T-pose. I would, put on socks, put on underwear, put on a pair of pants, put on another pair of pants, put on my snow pants, put on another pair of socks, and put on a shirt, and put on a long sleeve shirt, and put on a sweater, and then put on a jacket, and then put on a snow jacket, and then I would put on a hat, and then basically by the time I get outside, I'm like, kind of like a waddling little penguin there. But I hated it. Why? Because I couldn't fucking move. I'm literally like, I can't reach the snow. Ah! Of course, this was me as a kid. I was more like, and I just kind of fell over in the snow. But that's how I felt. So as I got older, I would actually strip away layers, and I would be going out in like negative 20 degrees and a sweater and jeans. My family's like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's like, look, I would rather get used to the cold and not have to walk around like a damn marshmallow. I like movement. I like my freedom. And wearing 10 layers is restrictive. It stops me from moving. It stops the flow. So it felt naturally uncomfortable, even today. If it's 32 degrees outside, maybe unless I'm truly having a bad, horrible pain day or something, I will... What's up, bro? How you doing? You want to come up and say hey or something? Sorry, there's a bird. Anyways. Really scatterbrained today. I'm trying to be grounded, but... So essentially, what I would do was I would strip off layer by layer, and my parents would be pissed. And they're like, what are you doing? You're going to get sick. It's like, I'd rather be sick than having to deal with this. That's kind of the same analogy, is most people don't realize it. They're just moving sluggishly and they don't know it. But then you actually kind of look at yourself and you have to develop yourself. Let's put it this way. So then we're going to move on to this. This is a flower. I did not put a lot of detail. It's a rose. It's supposed to be a rose. So, the thing of it this way is because I would feel restricted. I hated it. Although we perceive it as protection. And in that instance, it actually is. If my little kid body went out there without all those jackets, I would either A, freeze, or get frostbite. So it is actual physical protection in that essence. And in a spiritual, metaphysical, mental state, we put on these protections because we believe it to protect us. It's perceived protection. So we've got all these protective layers defending us against the world around us. But these ones, unlike the actual clothing, these ones are not helpful. They're actually restricting movement. They're restricting flow. But what I would do is, at first, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, is you look at yourself and be like, oh, ooh, that's gross. It's almost like a giant mess pile of just nasty trauma and patterns that you build from negativity. You look at it and you're just like, oh, I don't want to look at that. That's not me. I don't want to consider myself that. That's no. But that's not the case. Because if you think about it this way, the rose petal. Now, again, everything has inherent beauty. But the rose itself, the beauty comes from how many layers it has. If you didn't have that much intricacy of the rose, it wouldn't be as pretty as it is. So it's not necessarily looking at yourself and seeing all the negativity and seeing disgusting, gross me. It's beauty. It's something you did subconsciously to defend and protect yourself. So it's not, again, looking at some horrible, oh my god, this happened to me and now I'm stuck in this bubble almost of trauma and negativity. I mean, you are, but it's not that mindset. So what you do is once you realize you're the flower, it's kind of like in a non-harmful way. Again, this is not the great analogy, but like a kid, you pull away one petal at a time. Kind of like that game, loves me not. Well, you pull away one petal at a time until you get your answer. You get to the final petal, and people have determined that to be their answer. Well, that's kind of the same thing. You strip away all the layers of yourself, and you see your true core, the answer. Now we're going to break it down here. What this is, I mean, you can look at it many different ways, but essentially it's a skill tree. I'm specifically based it off the Skyrim skill tree. If you play video games, you know anything about a skill tree. You start with one skill, you pick a class. I want to be an adventurer, a knight. And then you get your first skill. I can swing my sword. And then from there, it's like, okay, well now I've got more skills, and I open up these avenues of other possible paths. Maybe I want to be defensive, and I attack, but I also am really good at defending. Or maybe I want to put all my points into attack. Well, in the spiritual sense, it's more like, and follow me here, it's going to suck. It's like cleaning an attic. Or it's like renovating a house. You buy a brand new house and you're like, all right, maybe you bought it on purpose to fix it up. You know, it's going to be like a self-improvement project, right? I'm going to buy this house and I'm going to put all this money into it and fix it up. So many times on these TV shows, I would see, I'm sorry, I can feel myself. Grounding. So many times on these TV shows, I would see, you know, they dramatize it. And you start off and the first thing you get is, oh, we found this cool new house, it's really wrecked. And then they start pulling it apart and they're like, oh my god, what is this? No! And you're just like, well, shit, you know, oftentimes this house you bought for $30,000, maybe you wanted to invest on top of it $60,000. So it's like now we're at $90,000 in the hole. But then you find out these repairs are more like $200,000 on top of it. So you're just like, you know, it's like, wow, that investment was worse than I thought. But it's not the investing is what I'm trying to get to. It's the layering. So you get, like, say, we'll put it to this comparison now. So say I've been working on abandonment. Well, you take the skill tree, the abandonment wound, and you're like, all right, we're going to start on my abandonment wounds. It's almost like a trauma tree. Yeah, well, we'll make up a concept of trauma tree. And in the middle, you've got you. Okay? And then you sit here and you develop all these little dots next to you like a skill tree that are your traumas. Codependency, abandonment, or, you know, maybe it's like the core. In fact, I might even have to come up with this. But it's like, all right, your core abandonment. Core wound, abandonment. You're like, all right, well, let's tap into that. So you push that button. And then it's like, all right, opens up the skill tree. We've got being left as a child, so on and so forth, like not having friends, people constantly, and it's like all of a sudden, now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different paths to go down. You're just like, maybe I wasn't ready for this can of worms. That's a lot more than I thought, you know? So you're like, oh shit, okay. So let's just say, for instance, we'll switch to, you know what, yeah, this is a form of abandonment. One of my wounds has always been strike first. I'm gonna out myself here. My younger kid self does not feel safe. Whenever I receive help or whenever someone tried to help, I would lash out. Or anytime I was in distress or anything, or anytime someone hurts me, I lash out. I used to. It was retaliate. I have to attack first before I get attacked. Or I would do it not necessarily trying to escalate it, but it's like, oh, I just got attacked, so now let me attack back and show him you can't hurt me, kind of thing. You know, it's kind of like lash back out of fear, kind of thing. However, I wouldn't have known that unless you peel back the layers. Like, for instance, let's say my car got door dinged in my apartment. It actually did. So this is a real life instance. The other day, my car got door dinged. And I even showed the dude a photo. Like, I took a picture of our cars next to each other. I just kind of knew it was going to happen. But nothing truly got resolved. In fact, the matter of the truth is, all right, let's break it down like this. So I've got a scenario where my car was dinged. My inner child perceives it as danger, or myself, because something outside of my control that I perceived as negative and damaging to me. So I'm upset, I'm aggressed, I'm angry. Something happened out of my control, I perceive it as danger. Red flags, I'm angry, I go to retaliate. First instinct, goes hit their car. Go smash their windshield, go do something like retaliate. Your first instinct is to retaliate. Because of course when I talk to him, he's sitting there trying to be all clever, talking in Spanish, thinking I can't understand him. Because he had someone else in the car, calling me an asshole and all these fucking names, saying I'm crazy. So, of course, my first instinct is retaliate. But if you actually step back and look at the scenario, I'm gonna be honest, my car is dinged to hell. It's just like me, it's been to hell and back. Although the outside's scratched to hell, the inside's beautiful. Well, the reason I'm saying that is because I know another ding on my car is not going to do anything. It's like, as of this point, it's actually quite laughable. It's like I can't even tell when there's a new ding. The only reason I knew is because it was a white car. And then there's a big old fresh, white ding on yours. You're just like, well, that's new. So realistically, you step back, you look at the layer, you're like, okay, you look at the story, you're like, okay, so this is what happened. Well, why? And then this is when you peel back the layer. Now, this is the uncomfortable part, because people don't want to think about it. They just want to say, oh, they're the villain, they effed up my car, F you. That's it. End of story. This has been a repeated pattern for me, so finally I'm like, okay, let's look at it. Why do I do this? And after some research and doing a little bit of inner work, it's like, well, I lash out because it's one of those, goes back to it's better to be feared than loved. I perceive danger and people are going to constantly attack me, so I have to go out of my way and attack them first. No, I don't want to attack. No, I don't want to be mean or hurtful, or I don't even want to do it. But the emotions flare up, the signal, the red flags flare, and I go out and retaliate, and that's when we typically do something we don't want to do, and we end up going to like jail or getting a ticket or something stupid. Something I did not want. But because I lived in the moment, lived in the story, and I didn't peel away the layer, I repeated the pattern and I reenacted it. How did we even start? Peeling away layers? Yeah, okay, so like I said, I peeled away the layer, and it was uncomfortable. I was like, well, because it hurt. It actually physically hurt. I'm like, ooh, the sensation is gross, and it's nasty, and it hurts, and I'm just, So most of the time, people don't want to pull away the curtain. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. People don't want to pull away the curtain because of what's underneath. They're like, they see it as some kind of gross-ass monster and something horrible, but in reality, it's just you that's damaged and hurt. It's you that's just in pain. But nobody wants to see that. So typically, we choose not to remove the barrier. But what is actually happening, and that we're not seeing, and again, is this really poorly... I didn't use color pencils, I didn't use markers, I should have used color. Honestly, I kind of miss my whiteboard. But it was essentially a picture of the prism. You know how light refracts through it? Well, this one is more or less a distorted. We'll say distorted. It's not negative, it's distorted. So essentially what trauma does is it takes you, which is your original light, and it fractures it. However, it also filters it. So it no longer is light, it becomes darkness, and it fractures it into fragments. So now what you essentially have to do is take another light or a same light and refilter it into these corners, these mindscapes, these fractured selves, and you turn on the light. And like I said, most people, when you turn on the light in the darkness, they're scared. They're like, the darkness is scary, I don't want to see this. But then you turn on the light through the fractured image, self-image, and you can see the bits of you. But the issue is I turned it on too much and I saw all of it. So you kind of have to go through and break it down. In fact, I think I'm going to do this. Comment on the video if you want it. I'm going to actually try to make a trauma tree of like a template, a trauma tree template. Because then you can actually, interesting. Because it's a nicer way. Like, I don't know how to keep talking without repeating myself, but basically, it's what I've been doing. It's almost like, now apparently, this is not a skill most people can do. I'm being told. I didn't know this. But essentially what I did was I fractured myself and said, okay, well, if I am in these fractured states, I categorize it visually by putting it in one of those mental hallways or a mental castle. There's this concept people do called a mental mansion or a mental scape. I don't know what they call it. I forget. It's like a memory castle where you can actually make a mental construct of like a building that's familiar to you and say, I built a castle. And then mentally inside this castle, I have a library. And in the library, I look up information or memories. And then in another section, maybe I have a game room where I go and sit, and that's my peaceful room. And that's where I mentally sit to be calm and grounded. Well, you can do the same thing with trauma. You set up these doorways, these pathways, and you go through one door at a time. And you're like, all right, today I'm going to explore the abandonment wound. And then you walk through and there's 10 more doors. And you're like, all right, let's go through this door. Let's see what this door has to offer. And then you walk through the door and it plays out like a story, like a memory. And you sit there and you watch the memory and you play out the story. And you're like, okay, well, how did I do this? But the deal is, you have to develop the observer mode, that grounded center, I want to say the true self. It's the unbiased, unfiltered self. It's the you that just simply is. It exists. There's no story, there's no nothing, it's just the observer. And that looks at the story. That is what's going through the mental score, the mental doors, is the observer. So the observer walks through the door, watches the story, and then sorts it out. That's essentially what I've been doing. Stripping away layers, looking at the layer, cleaning it, or possibly doing whatever is needed, because sometimes you can't clean it. Sometimes it just needs to be discarded. Sometimes there's just energies you just say, thank you for being in my life, I appreciate the lesson, and you let it go. You don't always have to fix the story. You just basically, let's put it this way. A story that's coming up, it was actually in a book I read, was there's this one guy who hired a farmhand. A farmhand is someone who works on a ranch or a farm. This guy was amazing at physical labor. Build this fence, done. Clean those trees, done. But then the farmer asked him to sit down and say, okay, so now all of these apples, I want you to sit through the baskets and sort them out. Good crop, bad crop, kind of thing, you know. Is this a good apple? Is this a bad apple? And he literally worked there for like 4 or 5 months, no problem. Well, after this task, he goes up to the farmhand and says, hey man, I'm going to have to quit. And he's like, why? What the hell? You're like one of the best workers I've ever had. The farmhand goes, it's too hard. I can't do that. That's too difficult. Making choices. Making the choices is the difficult part. So to choose to actually sit down and do the mental work is the reason we never get there. It all hinges on a choice. Because then once you get there, you have to continuously re-choose. And this, I need to remember to link it back to my Choose Yourself video. Mental note, link it to Choose Yourself. Please. Because that's how you choose yourself. Even though it hurts and even though it's painful, you go back and you keep doing it. You keep looking at the layers. But then it gets back into kind of like said, renovating that home. We'll use that as a metaphor. Because now, slowly but surely, at the beginning, it's really hard, it really sucks, but you slowly see the progress. You're like, wow, this room is finished, and it's ready for stuff. I can start putting stuff back in here. Good memories, good patterns, good vibes. I can put whatever I want. Now that I've cleared out all that negativity. We're going to wrap it up here. It feels like that's about it. If you guys truly do want help on this video, please let me know. Leave comments, ask questions. These videos are here to help you. I think I'm actually going to try to go home and work on this. On a trauma tree diagram. Hopefully it'll be ready by the time I post this video. And I'll try to get it into a PDF and all that jazz. Ooh, interesting. I actually just had some interesting information. Wow, okay. Anyways, I did not anticipate that from this video. I'm gonna go home and eat. Is there anything else, Spirit, you want me to say while I find my keys? There they are. Do it at your own pace, too. At first, because of the person I was or am shedding, I was really hard on myself, and I essentially said, alright, let's do it all at once. And I took all my shadows and dumped them into a bucket. I said, let's sort it all at once. That was not a good idea. So do it at your own pace. Because the other important part is rest. As we had talked about in the previous videos of the nervous system,